Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. A very warm good afternoon to all of you. I am Afani SV from Vash. Today we would be interacting with a young activist, writer, and researcher. He's a very regular face on various broadcasting channels as well. And I have requested him to spare some time with us. And he would be today talking about the need for intra-faith dialogue among Muslims. We have always heard about interfaith dialogue, in which we try to talk on basic grounds among various communities like Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhs, and we find the common grounds and then we try to talk on it. There are a lot of social issues as well, in which there have been interfaith conferences, interfaith meetings. In the same way, as we now see in the current times, there is a strong need for intra-faith dialogue within different religions as well as in Islam. There are various sects in Islam, and to elaborate more on this, we have Mr. Mushtaq Ahmad Sikander. Mushtaq sir, welcome and thank you for gracing us with your presence. Please.
Thank you for inviting.
Yeah.
So, as far as this intra-faith dialogue is concerned, as you yourself very well deliberated that mostly the conferences, the seminars, and even the books have been written about the need for interfaith dialogue in concern with various religions, particularly between the Ahle Kitab, the Christians, Jews, and Muslims, as well as between the Muslims and Hindus and other non-Semitic religions. But as far as the inter-faith dialogue is concerned, we are well aware that Islam is not a monolith or homogeneous lot. So there are various different types of lived Islams practiced in different religions and under different sects and schools of thought. So it's pertinent to mention here that there's a difference between schools of thought and sects. The sects completely are a bit different, like the Shia and Sunni, the major two sects of Islam. So they have a different set of principles and particularly different set of hadith collections or the prophetic sayings. Though both believe on the finality of the prophethood and Quran, but other than that, they have different kind of rituals. They have different kind of faith system or belief systems. So that as far as the sects are concerned, and then you have different schools of thought within these two major sects. Among the Sunnis, you have particularly four schools of thought. That is the Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, and Hanbali, and also then you have the Sufis, and you have the different silsilas of the tariqats, like you have the Naqshbandiya, you have the Qadriya, you have Suharwardiya, you have Chistiya, and within them you have a certain other subset of silsilas. Similarly, with the Shias, we have the Isna Ashariya, that is the dominant group that believe in the 12 Imams. Then we have the Zaydis, who believe in five Imams. Then we have the Ismailis, who believe in seven. And within the Ismailis, we have the Bohras and Khojas, who they have different set of beliefs. So these all sects and schools of thought are prevalent within Islam. But there is a lot of misconceptions. There are a lot of kind of imaginations that people belonging to these schools of thought have about each other. So in order to bridge those kinds of othering, or in order to bridge those kinds of differences between these schools of thoughts and sects, it's essential that an intra-faith dialogue is initiated. Like in case of Shia and Sunni kind of dialogue, what I have been advocating since last many years is that the differences will be bridged once the Shias and Sunnis start praying behind each other, because most of them don't consider it valid if they pray behind each other. So in order to get over this kind of differences and misconceptions and to bridge the divide between these two sects, it's essential that they pray after each other and they also intermarry, because this is also a case of concern that these two sects mostly don't intermarry with each other. So in order to bridge the divide, these two steps, practical steps, are very essential: the praying behind each other and then marrying among each other. So that is a sect between Shia and Sunnis. And as far as within the Sunnis, we have different types of schools of thought, though now they have also retrograded to what we call sects, because most of these schools of thoughts now have their own masjid, the mosques where they pray.
Yeah.
They have their own set of belief system that they have evolved over the centuries. So that also makes retrograde them to the sect. Otherwise, they were previously just schools of thought.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yes, in the current times, there's a strong need for intra-faith dialogue among Muslims, and there are many issues in which different sects can work together. After all, our book is one, our kalima is one. However, there are in few sects minor differences. The differences are in practices, and in few sects there are few differences in other cases as well, which are more than practices. So, if in current times, how important is there the need for intra-faith dialogue, and how can
Uh,
it
uh,
change the course?
what you have stated, that these are minor differences. Yes, they may be ideologically minor differences, or we can say that in a certain sense that Islam is a monolith. We all believe in a same kalima. We believe in the finality of prophethood. We believe in the revealed texts, and we also believe in the afterlife. So that makes us the belief system a simple and a complete one. But once we enter or we try to understand the mindset of these schools of thought, suppose in case of the Indian context, we have the Hanfi jurisprudence that's being, or the Hanfi school of thought that's being followed in the subcontinent, or particularly in South Asia. But if you witness that within this Hanfi school of thought, we have another two emerging schools of thought, that is the Deobandi and Barelvi, and both of them have developed their own texts or set of beliefs regarding various issues, whether it's related to prophethood, whether it's related to wilaya of imams, whether it's related to the way they pray, whether it's related to the shrines, and whether it's related to the other such rituals. So both of these schools of thought, though follow the same jurisprudence of Imam Abu Hanifa, but within them, they are completely different set of beliefs and ritual systems that they follow. And then going further, these both schools of thought don't consider each other as practicing good Muslims. They consider the followers of the other as deviated Muslims. So that's why you witness that Barelvis have different mosques, Deobandis have different mosques, and in most of the cases they do takfir against each other. That's declaring each other as kafir, as each other as deviated, as each other not being pious Muslims. And you witness that they have written numerous hundreds of these texts, polemical texts, that is denouncing the other sect. And within the madrasas also, where these ulama of both these trends are being raised up and taught, you will witness that you have subjects like Rade Diobandiyat, Rade Modudiyat, Ya Rade Barilviyat. So they teach the students of each of their own sects how to denounce the other, how to build arguments, how to debate with them. So you can witness that these schools of thought now have retrograded to sects where they consider somebody who is outside their school of thought as not being a good Muslim, as not being a pious Muslim, as not being somebody who is following the dictates or injunctions or message of Islam. So it makes the need for intra-faith dialogue much more essential in the current times, because Muslims mostly don't understand the need that these sects have created a certain kind of divide within the Muslims or within the same school of thought that certainly needs to be bridged. And certainly the ulama who are much progressive, or who understand that these small issues that are called the Firoi issues, that they have made up that they have made into such big issues as if it's some kind of tussle between kufr and Islam. So that's why, due to these issues, where our masjids or mosques have become different, our mosques have divided the Muslims. on the basis of their sects, it becomes very essential to bridge the divide through intra-faith dialogue. And in this intra-faith dialogue, it's essential that we should get over these sectarian kind of differences that they have blowed or exaggerated out of proportion. Because again, as you stated, that these may be small differences, but they have built a whole castle on these small differences. They have written whole texts or treatises on so on these small issues, that it certainly has become a complete sect in its own essence, the both the Deobandis and Barelvis. So that's why, and the same is the case with the Ahl Hadith school of thought. Though again, you witness there are different strands of this Ahl Hadith movement within Muslims that basically was formed or established just to overcome the sectarianism of these four schools of thought. By these four schools of thought, we witnessed that even during the Ottoman Empire, you have four different imams in the Kaaba. So four different imams are leading the Hanfis, the Shafis, the Hanbalis, and the Malikis. So the Ahl Hadith as a movement against this kind of sectarianism, that our prayers are well behind every imam. So they, yeah, as a movement, tried to unite these all schools of thought. But with the time, it itself, the Ahl Hadith movement or the Reform movement, the Salaf movement itself became embedded within sectarianism, and now they are responsible for promoting sectarianism in most countries of the world after the discovery of the oil in these Gulf rich states. They
Yes.
adopted Al Hadith or Salafism as their brand of Islam. So now they are spreading this brand of Islam to other Muslim countries, where in most cases, if three or four families in a certain colony or in a certain area, they accept Al Hadith school of thought, the fifth thing they will do, that they will just build a different mosque and state that our namaz behind the Hanfi or Shafi or whatever imam is not valid. So we witness that this kind of sectarianism has divided the Muslim society. In the same family, we witness that the father is following the Hanfi school of thought and son is a Salafi, and they are not they are considering each other as deviated, and there are these kinds of tussles. So that's why, because of these number of issues that we witnessed, whether related to sectarianism, whether related to the denouncing each other through takfir, that there is a complete need of intra-faith dialogue. And our ulama certainly don't consider it very essential, or they are not aware of this crisis that the Muslim society is facing due to this kind of sectarianism, where the intra-faith dialogue becomes essential. Because unless until we don't understand, we don't bridge this divide that has been artificially created by different ulama who emphasized more on their own sectarian or school of thought rather than on the universal principles of Islam. And despite the Quran calling for "Wa'tasimu bihablillahi jami'a wala tafarruqu," that hold on to the rope of Allah and don't become divided. But the Muslims, as a pragmatic reality, as the lived Islam is there, we witness that the Muslims are divided on numerous levels. Not to talk of, this is on the religious levels we are talking. That's why we call it intra-faith dialogue. Otherwise, we have the differences on the community level. We have the differences on basis of language. We have the differences on basis of color. We have the differences on basis of region and language and other such divisions, and the gender discrimination also. But here we are talking about the intra-faith dialogue, that differences or the division that has been created in the name of Islam or in the name of certain sect. So that makes its essence much more needed. But what is lamentable and what's unfortunate is that most of the ulama, despite having studied Quran and Hadith for a good chunk of their life, for 10 years, 15 years in madrasas, and after that also, they again help reinforce the same concept of this sectarianism. And that's why you witness that the ulama who are basically product of our madrasas in the subcontinent, once the Indian or the Pakistani immigrants go to settle down in different foreign countries or Western countries, here they also bring these ulama with them, and these ulama also are responsible for spread of sectarianism there also, because here in the England, in the
Yes,
US,
yes,
America, you will also find these kinds of polemical debates among Muslims, whether Deobandis are good or whether the Barelvis are good or whether the Jamaat Islami people are fine or the Ahl Hadith, what they are following is good. Even among the Sufis, we witness that you have the tussle between different Sufi sheikhs of different silsilas. So Islam basically has the Prophet came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to bridge this divide. But the Muslims have perpetuated this kind of divide in the name of religion, in the name of sect, in the name of their schools of thought, or in the name of those ulama who were responsible for forming different kind of Islamic revivalist movements. You witness this kind of asbiya, what Ibn Khaldun calls asbiya, or the community kind of feeling, where you start to hate the other and love those who follow your kind of your interpretation of Islam. So this
The
kind of asbiya
Mushtaq,
one has.
yes, today we are in conversation with Mushtaqul Haq Sikander. The topic of today's interaction is the need for intra-faith dialogue. So we are thankful to you for your valuable time. Mushtaq Saab was giving us a detailed background about the different sects which are present in Islam and are being practiced in various Muslim communities as well. Now we would try to request you to focus forward and how should we progress ahead with it? How should we start the interfaith dialogue and how it can help us to prosper as one ummah?
But intrafaith, as I earlier started, like praying behind each other and marrying with each other among the each school of thought. So these are two practical steps. But what other steps can be taken is that we can have friendships across our sects, and then these sectarian ulama who are perpetuating this sectarianism through the pulpits every Friday or on every other occasion, and particularly now with the advent of social media and YouTube and other such platforms. Earlier, this kind of sectarianism was just confined to few mosques, or it was just the polemical books that they were writing against in denunciation of the other sect. So a certain group of Muslims were just influenced by that, were interested in these kinds of sectarian type of debates. But rest of the Muslims, the majority of the Muslims were not concerned with this kind of thing. Like you witness that we have before 30 years, we didn't have this kind of Barelvi or Sufi kind of Barelvi or Deobandi or Sufi kind of debates within Kashmir. But after the advent of this social media and other such things, and the import of our Maulvis from outside, because we have the Maulvis in most of the masjids who are non-Kashmiris. So they have been brought up, or they have studied in these madrasas where these kinds of sectarian interpretation of Islam is the norm. So we witness that our society also has witnessed a drastic kind of change in this context. So the need is that the youth need to understand Islam themselves. They need to read Quran, that's above all, that does not give a message of sectarianism. And then the Sirah of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it doesn't have, later on the caliphs and other Sahabis and Tabi'in and Taba Tabi'in, we don't find this kind of denunciation or sectarianism among them. So if we read and understand from there ideologically, we will certainly be nourished and we will not fall prey to these sectarian ulama. That's one thing. And second thing is that we certainly need to pray behind each other. We don't need to create new mosques based on sectarianism, or we don't need to denounce any Muslim as deviated, or
Yeah, I would
as kafir, or as somebody behind whom our prayers are not valid. And then also the community kind of interaction
Mushtaq Saab,
can help, and also the ulama of different sects, they can come together and they can talk on a joint kind of platform. Like there have been initiatives among Shias and Sunnis where they come together. So why not the Ahl Hadith, Hanafis, and Shafis and Sufis, they can come together on a same platform and discuss issues. So that ways these practical steps will help to bridge the divide, and they should make ensure that they will not use the pulpits for perpetuating or for propagating hate that they do mostly on Fridays.
Yes, we are talking today with Mushtaq Sikander. The topic is need for intra-faith dialogue among Muslims. He gave a very detailed description about the various sects which are there in Islam. Apart from that, he also gave his suggestions and vision on how there can be a unity, how there can be a good brotherhood between various intra-faith various sects in Islam. So one of it was praying, and I just realized that from past couple of years there have been few programs which have been conducted in India, in Lucknow, in which Shias and Sunnis, and I think even in Badgam last year it happened in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. Shias and Sunnis offered the Eid prayer together.
Right.
Yes, Shias and Sunnis offered the Eid prayer together. And continuing with it, there is a need in the current times. We need to actually focus more and more on these things. When we pray together, we give a very strong message. When our imams, when our ulemas offer prayer together, it gives a strong message down the line. Apart from that, you said that there should be initiatives of intra-faith dialogues. Yes, there are various dialogues happening between the Shias and Sunnis, but among the sects also, in the Shia and Sunni, there is a large scope of dialogue which can be done. And a very important thing which you just mentioned is that they should not use their sermons in demeaning the other sect. Yes, there has to be a strong need about that, and people have to realize it. And at the same time, come all of the sects have to come together on on a single platform and work together hand in hand. Like current times, we are in the age of pandemic. We are going through one of a very different times. The world order after this pandemic is going to change drastically. So people can promote messages or use this as a platform where they can speak to their followers, their people, and speak in a very cordial manner because the message is same. And yes, I had mentioned in the beginning also, although all of them, all these sects have the same basis. The book is same, the Lord is same, our Kalma is same. Yes, there are certain differences, but however, these differences have been taken too seriously also. We have to broaden our vision. We have to open up our mind and go back to our roots as well and see from where we have come. So it was wonderful having conversation with you, and you gave us an insight about the various sects in Islam and then the way forward about how intra-faith dialogue can should be done. Now, what are the issues on which we can have an intra-faith dialogue, and how? What is the practical? If we have to look at a practical aspect of it, कि ये करना है, we have to do it. How should we go ahead with it?
Suppose we can take non-religious issues. Suppose we have the issue of gender, we have the issue of environment, we have the issue of drug abuse, we have the issue of late marriages, we have the issue of dowry, we have the issues of working women, we have the issues of domestic violence, we have the issues of of different our water bodies getting polluted. So all of these sects would have certain kind of instructions that Islam lays before. So these kinds of non-religious issues and those issues that are a joint concern for us all. So these can be certainly used for bringing together these ulama of various different schools of thought and various sects. So that can be a very practical solution where you don't have to directly just attack them or just make them feel that they are supposed to leave their understanding of Islam or leave their own sectarian interpretation of Islam. They can come together on these issues of common concern.
Definitely,
While
definitely. See,
Islam
we all,
certainly
hmm,
while
we
Islam
all have
certainly
said
gives
the kalima. We are all brothers and sisters of kalima. So we should focus on that and leave certain differences apart and work towards. It is a very good suggestion that we can start with social issues, and currently pandemic is a big social issue. So we can start with that, and there is a strong need to have a kind of a governing body or a kind of a there is a strong need actually at a national level, at a local level, and also at an international level, where there needs to be a form of a body of all the ulemas from various sects, and then it can be good down the line. It can be very good because they can give a strong message, and at the same time, if at all there is any differences, one has to accept the differences while debating, while discussing, and look towards at those points where one can see and focus more on the similarities.
I,
So,
I, I may, I may disagree a bit here on this because we have witnessed that on all India level, and here also we have such kind of bodies where you have representation of ulama from different sects, but they again have failed to curtail the growing sectarianism, particularly among the masses. It's because of the reason that even if there is one, I can give one example. There is a certain Deobandi Molvi, I will not name him. So he has been, his videos have been going viral in Kashmir regarding various issues. He is declaring that the other sect ulama or Molvi should come and debate with him regarding the Deobandi and Hanfi kind of thing that he thinks is the only valid interpretation of Islam. So he is calling others. But the different stalwart Deobandi ulama of Kashmir, they have never condemned what this Maulana is doing in the name of sectarianism or in the name of considering himself right. So unless and until we don't have this type of understanding that all these sects are good, and we are not ready to overcome this sectarianism, whether of Deobandi, of Barelvi, or Ahledis, or whatever school of thought we do belong. Till then, the unity and till then that kind of understanding would be futile because we have been witnessing it in case of Majlis. We have here Majlis Ulama or we have the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, but that has not helped in bridging the divide because we witness that many times if a Barelvi dies, the Deobandis will not allow him to be cremated in their graveyard and vice versa. So that kind of sectarianism, though, is not prevalent in Kashmir, but we can witness that within the coming time, it can be a reality here also. But just having a board of these representing different schools of thought will not resolve the problem unless and until they don't denounce that this thing that just our interpretation of Islam is not valid. Islam certainly has different multiple type of interpretations, and it has been going through from the prophetic times because we witnessed Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam praying namaz in different styles. We witness ideological differences among Sahaba on various issues. We have the example of Hazrat Abu Zar Ghafari, who leaves Medina in the times of Hazrat Umar and settles down outside, stating that now the Muslims have become more materialistic. But he was not denounced by somebody as kafir. Or you have the difference of opinion regarding Miraj between Abdullah bin Masud and Hazrat Aisha. But nobody is declaring the other as kafir or other as deviated. So there was that kind of tolerance. And even within the Muslims, you have that this type of academic tolerance that on the one hand you have Imam Ghazali writing Tahafatul Falasifa and he is being rebutted by Ibn Rushd Tahafatul Tahafat, but none of them declared each other kafir. So this kind of takfir, this kind of denunciation of each other as deviated, as somebody who is not a complete Muslim, and declaring the namaz behind each other as invalid is what is problematic with the sectarianism today. Otherwise, having multiple schools of thought adds to the diversity of Islam. It depicts that Islam is valid for all times and Islam can be practiced in multiple ways. The different forms of namaz itself speaks of the beauty of Islam. But once you emphasize that only this type of this way of ritual of namaz is valid, then it becomes very problematic, and you declare other type of namaz where you don't do the rafa then as something that's invalid in Islam. So there the problem starts, and within these sects also you have a number of. Suppose in case of Kashmir, we consider that the Wahhabis. So again, it's a different type of term. The Ahledis would not prefer to use it because it has been used by English to describe the movement of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. So within the Ahl Hadith movement in Kashmir, you witness that you have the Ahl Hadith, you have the Gurwai Ahl Hadith, and you have the Bazmi Tawheed. So within the Ahl Hadith sect also, you have three different strands who differ with each other on certain beliefs, on certain practices, and certain rituals. So again, within the sects also you have different. Like I have already deliberated that among the Hanafis you have the Deobandis and Barelvis. So this kind of thing will be there and it will continue to remain there. But the need is that these sects don't declare each other kafir. The ulama of the stalwarts of these sects, they give this message that every sect, whosoever believes in Tawheed, whosoever believes in finality of prophethood, whosoever believes in the Quran, whosoever believes in life after life, in the hereafter, they are as good Muslims as anybody else. And the salvation in Islam depends on good deeds, not on these small kind of things on which they have exaggerated and built a whole corpus of literature and whole fundamentals of their sect. So they need certainly to come out and denounce it. Only then will this sectarianism be overcome, and only then this intrafaith dialogue will become a success. So the ulama have this duty, because instead of giving the message of unity, or instead of standing for the principles of Quran and Islam, they are just reinforcing sectarianism of their own school of thought, and that's very problematic. And that's what the Islam has denounced, and that's what Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sent to overcome these kinds of differences. And in the Quran, we find that the earlier the qawms, the earlier communities of the prophets, they were destroyed because of this disunity and of this aggressive and exaggerated understanding of religion that's quite exclusivist and extremist in most senses, that declares somebody who doesn't believe in their belief systems as kafir or as deviant. So that needs to be overcome, and that's what people like you through Wajd and others should try to do to bridge the divide among these sects. Like you stated about the Shia Sunni namaz. So why not the Ahli Hanfi or Barelvi Deobandi praying together in the masjid, not just their ulama coming together on some platform for such seminar, because that appears to be an artificial kind of unity. So the permanent type of unity is that kind of where you pray behind each other, where you marry with each other, where you dine with each other, and where you consider each other as complete Muslims, not just that you are somebody who is an authentic Muslim. So these steps need to be taken.
Definitely, definitely, Mushtaq Saab. I would like to also reiterate that the diversity. This is the beautiful diversity of Islam, and we should actually accept it, acknowledge it, and then there is a strong need for tolerance. We have to learn to be tolerant, and we also have to learn it from our ulamas, from our ancestors, and how tolerant. You gave us few examples at the time of the Prophet, from the time of Prophet, the Sahabas. You gave us the examples of Ibn Rushd and Imam Ghazali. There, there was tolerance, and that tolerance gives us a strong message. That message is still relevant today. We need to be tolerant. Our ulamas have to be tolerant towards each other. There can be differences, but that's the beauty. That's the beauty of diversity. There can be minor differences, but then it is all a part of one religion, and one has to accept it. You again and again reiterated and again stress that nobody should judge and portray that he is not a right person. Yes, we are nobody to judge. Judgment is in the hands of Allah, and we should not take it in our own hands. It definitely, He knows what is right. He knows what is within our hearts. And during this time, I just realized that these times it is very important for intra-faith dialogue. And I hope we can resist them, and I hope people like you also can steer it. Because if we have to move forward, there's a strong need for people to be together in it. Whether you want to move forward socially, economically, or in any other way, there's a strong need that there has to be common ground, there has to be acceptability, and there has to be respect for the differences. I hope that one day we would see that on a regular basis, the people offering prayers from different jamaats, from different sects together, and without any bias. As I said earlier, judgment should be held, should be left to God, Allah. We should not judge. We are not there to judge. We are slaves of Allah. We are supposed to just perform our duties, which are
Yes,
mentioned to us, and focus on it. And we should not try to create fitna. We should not try to pinpoint each other about what is good and what is bad, because I believe that only Allah knows what would be good and what would be bad now and also at the day of judgment. It was wonderful interacting with you, and it was very, very informative. And academically, I feel that I have learned a lot from you during this interaction. And I'm sure people who are listening to us and who would be listening to us will also be very informed. And I would like to again say and stress on there's a strong need for intra-faith dialogue among Muslims. There has to be a great level of tolerance. There can be different interpretations for the same thing by different sects, and they can interpret in various ways. But that is the beauty of Islam. We have to accept the
yes.
diversity of our religion. So, any closing remarks by you to start out?
Just I would just say like Hazrat Isa, Jesus Christ, may God's peace be upon him. He stated about these types of ulama in New Testament. It's written that what those ulama did, they they he stated that they would eat the elephant, but they will just try to filter the mosquitoes. That's what basically sectarianism does. That it emphasizes on small, very small issues while just turning a blind eye to the basic big issues that Muslims are facing. So these small issues can be that the length of your beard, the length of your garments, the other such trifling issues like the Jesus Christ states. So he has very well stated about the ulama of the Jews that they would eschew a whole elephant or camel, but then they will try to filter the mosquitoes. So that's what the sectarianism is doing with us also. So we need to overcome it, and inshallah, that is the real message of Islam. And with the practical steps, certainly it would come, and our youth who would read, understand Islam, the prophetic seerah themselves, will certainly understand that Islam doesn't stand for any kind of aggressive sectarianism that is exclusivist and extremist.
Yes, definitely. It's a very important point. Islam doesn't stand for aggressive and extremist sectarianism. We should focus on unity. We should be tolerant. There's a strong need at this hour to be tolerant, to understand the differences, and after understanding the differences, we have to respect the differences. We have to just figure out the common points and move forward. At the end of the day, our kalama is saying we are all brothers of in this, and we have to focus on that. This I also would like to pray to our ulemas, our learned scholars, that they should also figure out a mechanism in which they can come together to begin with on social issues like late marriages or drug abuse or this pandemic, and then they can take it forward. There's a strong need of different sects to come together at a governing level where the ulemas are, and at the basic level, like in our towns, cities, villages, where we find in one mohalla, in one community, we have two or three different mosques, and they give azan back to back, and
Mm.
and people go in different mosques just because they belong to a particular sect. Mosque is it's house of God, house of Allah, and we have to, as we said before, also, inshallah, we pray that we see that they in which all the people from different sects pray together. Their ulamas have now it is time for the people to do it, and that too not on a ceremonial level on a particular Friday, Jummah, or on a Eid prayer, but on a regular basis without bias. They we pray to Allah, and Allah is God. And we have to
No.
figure out ways in which we stand united. There's a strong need for intra-faith dialogue. And Mushtaq Saab, I thank you for your valuable time. God
Thank you
has
for inviting
blessed
me.
you with a lot of information, and I feel honored to interact with you. Inshallah, we'll be speaking again with you hopefully soon. And
Sure.
again, I would like to say that there's a strong need for interfaith dialogue among Muslims. We need to be tolerant, and we need to also look at the beautiful diversity of Islam. Thank you for your time. We'll be again seeing you all
Thank
soon.
you for inviting me. Good afternoon.